Welcome to another episode of the Chronic Comeback Podcast. Today, I am really excited to have on the show Rebecca Christensen. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We were just talking about, I'm normally in the kind of climate that you're in. Like, like I see, you got your nice warm jumper, and I'm here with my pretty shocking tank top vest thing because I'm sweating in Bali. But I'm grateful I'm not in that cold that I used to be in. But I'll stop going on about that. Just getting into your story, really. Like we spoke initially on Instagram, and your story was definitely one that really interested me, and kind of, really coming on, and we talked about it before, really giving people hope through the kind of experience that you have had. So would you be able to just talk a little bit about kind of how life was like before you had any sort of issues with your health, or maybe you've always had some sort of issues? Can you talk us a little bit about your kind of your childhood and what was life was like from a health perspective?
Yeah, sure. Now looking back, I've explored a lot of my childhood because I work so much with my patterns. So I have a lot of insights there now that maybe I didn't have back then. When I started Fast EFT, what I would have said is like, on my journey, I'm going to talk about Fast EFT later. But what I would have said is I had a normal childhood, nothing there, just regular. Now, when I look back, there were a lot of tension in my house. Not anything crazy, like very relaxed. Everybody was loving and kind, but my parents didn't really like each other that much. So growing up, there were always a lot of suppression, always a lot of tension, and everybody just tiptoed around it. It was never talked about. Just kind of grew up in that. But very loving mother that did have a lot of issues with stress and burnout, and my dad that was also very stressed. But everybody is, and not a big thing. So I grew up not with my brother. The first probably 12 years of my life, I was not having any serious issues. I was always sick all the time in the winter, but I just thought it was because my immune system was really bad, and that's just how it were. So I didn't think more of it, and it wasn't a problem. I was just sick in the winter. I was okay. And then I went through school, and I took high school. And that's when I really started to struggle, and life started to get harder and harder. I just started the classical kind of burnout. I'm stressed all the time. This just started to get harder and harder, and my kind of everyday life got really hard to kind of to get through. I had to push myself all the time to get anything done because I just I didn't generally have energy for it. I didn't have any. I also was doing a lot of things that I didn't really want to do, like the type of things I was doing with my friends. Didn't really wanted to go party. Didn't really have energy for it, but you had to, so I did it anyway. So I really did that forcing thing all the time without really being that aware of it back then.
And so I'm gonna edit this out, but I need to turn on the air conditioning. I need one of my listening good sweat through it. Apologies. So you were in high school when this first started happening. Is that right? Like when you first started noticing something wasn't quite right?
Yes, but throughout high school, I didn't really have the awareness that it was a problem.
Right. And I guess it's all relative, right? Because you can only know what you feel, and maybe it's you feel this is what most people feel.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember saying to my mom, "Oh, I'm so stressed," and she was like, "Oh, you're not stressed. You're just busy." And yes, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But my body slowly started to show signs of symptoms I'm not even sure what was it. Sick all the time. Started to be sensitive to sounds and um, um, uh, light. Started to just be so stressed all the time. And if you remember, I had there were a particular stretch in my second year in high school where it really just took a hit. Like my then boyfriend broke up with me. And then my grandfather died. And it was like right around where he also had like a couple of exams and like a dance show. So just like a lot of stress at the same time. And after that, it was just, really, really hard to do anything. But I didn't really learn anything from that. I just continued with my chosen strategy of let's just push through and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I never rested. I never truly listened to myself and gave myself what I needed in that. I just did what I thought I had to.
What were your main symptoms? Sounds like it was mainly like fatigue, but also like nervous system sensitivities as well.
Yeah. So, when it was at the worst, I had like a lot of different things, but all mainly like related to the nervous system. So like fatigue, brain fog, just kind of like an extreme state of stress where anything would trigger me. So like watching a movie, that was too much. I couldn't do that. Reading a book, couldn't do that. Taking a walk longer than 500 to 700 meters, that was too much. Couldn't do that. And I would crash if I did any of these things. I was bloated. I had eczema. What else? Sometimes I would have like, when the muscles ticks and stuff. Yes. I mean, the worst thing was that I would literally crash if I did anything. So I was just so sensitive. It was insane.
And I guess when you're at that age, it can be a little bit difficult for you to speak up because your parents are your voice of reason. Then you think that everything they say is correct. And so if they tell you it's normal, okay, it must be normal. At what point were you like, okay, I can't keep doing this anymore. I need to go and see a doctor. And could you talk us through kind of, I assume you did probably go and see a doctor. What happened then?
Well, I only did that when I was literally forced to, like when I could not function anymore. That's the point where I was like, okay, maybe something is going on here. So after high school, I was very, very stressed. Like I was literally just shaking all the time. I could barely function. Now you're supposed to party in Denmark. And that's what the young people do after they graduate. And I remember I went to my own and one other. And like that 2 weeks spread was supposed to be like party. And that was what I had intended to do. And I went to 2. But knowing me, I had this job lined up right after high school, like a little demanding job. It was, driving around in the home care. So driving around helping people. And I was stressed about doing my own laundry. And here I were taking care of elderly people and doing it for them. So it was after that job, I really just, it burned me out. I was there 2.5 months, I think. Then I quit. And me, I had a job. I quit Friday and I had a job Monday. So then I started in a kindergarten, and that was better because I actually liked it. And I was only a substitute in the beginning, so I got a bit of rest. But then I was offered more hours, so of course I took that. And then after half a year there, that was over the winter, where again I got sick a lot, and I had like bladder infections, and just really hard to get through. After that, I crashed so much that I couldn't anymore. I had to quit. I had to call in sick. I wasn't functioning. And I remember it was like one specific night where I had the realization, okay, I can't do this anymore. This is not normal. I was up. I had to get up at 6 a.m. to get ready for work. And it was 4 a.m. and I hadn't gotten any sleep yet because I was so stressed about the fact that I had to get up at 6 because I didn't have energy for that. So at 4 a.m. I was like, okay, this is not normal. You're not supposed to be awake at 4 a.m. because you have to go to work the next day. So my whole life at that point was like, go to work, get home, and try to get ready for the fact that you have to get to work again the next day. So I was always like in lack of energy. So I decided there, okay, this is it. This is the last day I'm doing it. I'm going to work and quitting and finding a way to relax, And that's like after that where it got really bad, where like all these things. I couldn't read, I couldn't watch a movie, I couldn't do anything. I had like a year of that. And in that year, I went to a psychology first that really helped me. She was a really sweet, kind of also into alternative methods, and just really, and one of the, well, I don't know if it's one of the few, but at least one of the really good psychologists. And she told me to go to the hospital because she had the suspicion that I had the diagnosis BDS, which stands for bodily distress symptom. And in Denmark, is that's just kind of the technical part of it. But ME, which is a diagnosis that probably a lot of people here know, that used to be part of that diagnosis, but then a political decision separated them. So I don't really care much about diagnosis. I usually just say I had chronic fatigue because people know what that is. But I got that diagnosis pretty quickly without having to go through a lot of doctors because, well, I was, young and healthy. So I didn't see much reason to go to different doctors. I didn't really have that fear that something was wrong with me. I knew it was stress related. And yeah, I guess I was really lucky. I didn't have to go through mill like a lot of other people are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because you mentioned like did you say it was psychologist?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Like I think some people with chronic issues sometimes find the suggestion of that like a little bit difficult because it's implying that it's not physical and therefore they're not being heard almost and so it's interesting that you took to that and you actually kind of accepted that connection there. Like how did that happen?
Well, I wanted it. Like it was a relief for me. And again, I was really lucky. I found a really, really nice woman because I remember going in there and going out and being like I have hope now. Somebody's actually understanding what's going on with me. Somebody's actually listening. And also like she was the one that saw, okay, this diagnosis is probably what's going on here. And she was talking about nervous system regulation and like how to find that calm space and these things. So for me, it was a big thing. Like both my parents are pedagogues. Is that how you say it? So like social workers and stuff. So
Okay.
I was used to kind of talking about my feelings and like these things. So it was quite natural for me. And I knew it was stress related. Like I knew that. So it was obvious to me that like working on I guess like the way I approached the world might be a good idea.
And what kind of tools was she giving you to like help, and kind of how did they start to help in your life?
It was very basic. Like she said stuff like she explained to me how like you have like this window of tolerance, and like if you go above it, then that's not good. But you also don't want to go under it because then you don't like it better. So you have to like stay in this window. And right now it's like this, and you want it to become this at some point. But right now we need to stay in here. So stuff like that. She tried to explain to me that I was overthinking, and I said like, no, I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. So stuff like that. Then I had these realizations like, oh my God, like I have so much anxiety in social situations and things like that. So I remember actually he tried to give me a book with EFT, but I didn't take it. So now looking back, that's a bit funny because what I do is quite similar to that. But at that point, I was so stressed that I couldn't even handle. Like that was my reason for not taking the book. Like, first of all, I would never have been able to read the book at that point, and then like that would have been a massive undertaking. And then actually having like a thing I had to do, that's been my main trigger all along. So it's been really hard for me to kind of heal because I can't do anything without triggering myself.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because that resonates with me, like having to do something.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I think it's a common theme with people that have these kind of conditions that you go more towards the kind of the freeze response. There's fight or flight, but there's also freeze.
Really?
And when you have a freeze response, people usually hate when they feel stuck or trapped or these kind of things. And, I used a lot of years forcing myself to do things. So I'm very talented at that. That's a good skill of mine. I can force myself to do anything, no matter how bad I feel. So that's kind of how I approach things. I'm like, okay, I have to do this exercise now. And then my body instantly knows, okay, she's not going to listen to me anymore. And then, the first response and the resistance to it kind of happen because it's not safe for me to do anything because I haven't listened to myself in the past. In the past, I would always like push myself too far, do too much, or I don't know, not drink water if I was thirsty, or not go home early if I was tired, or whatever. So, yeah, that's also still what I'm currently working on because now I'm so much better and I'm getting back into the world and doing a lot of things again. And I've taken dance class, for instance, once a week. And that's so scary to me because then you have to be somewhere once a week, right? And then what if I don't feel good? What if something? So I really have to remind myself, no, if I don't feel good, I'm not going. It's okay. So giving myself that space to just say no, but mainly towards myself. It's not so much of the people, it's that I need to find peace with the fact that I can listen to myself and give myself what I need in the moment and still do things. So working with me instead of working against myself and trying to push myself to do something.
Yeah, it's a really difficult balance to strike and to know what is true and what's not true. I have it as an example. I've started trying to do these boxing classes at the gym, and whenever because I wasn't really capable of doing it, it would have hurt my joints too much, or I would have taken a lot out of me, and I thought, no, I'm going to give it a go, and did it a couple of weeks ago, and I felt great after it. And I also just felt great because I was so shit that I just thought, this is brilliant because I'm just so bad at it that I can only I can only get better. And today I was just I was really tired, and I was like, oh, should I go or should I not go? Which part of me is telling me not to go? And I thought it was the lazy part of me really that was telling me not to go, and that actually I will feel good. But then it was difficult because I felt pretty shitty this morning. And then I went and I felt amazing afterwards. And I was so glad I went. So it's just, but then I'm sure there are other times when I forced myself to do stuff that a perfect example is, I'm sorry for making this about me, but a perfect example is yesterday evening, I should have switched off work at 7 PM. And yet I'm there, answering stuff that can be left till the next day until 8:30. I think that's an example where maybe you're not, people, and it sounds like you're probably, boundaries are a big thing. It sounds like with you, where do you put your boundaries at? Where do you say no? Would you say that, is that accurate? Boundaries kind of something you've had to work on?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Probably haven't been using that word that much. I'm not really sure why, but a lot of I do a lot of guilt tripping in my head.
Yeah.
I remember how I used to sometimes hang out with people that I didn't even like. Not to hang anyone out. I'm sure they're all great people, but my first boyfriend, for instance, I didn't like him, but I loved him. So that's trauma bonding at its best, right? And that's kind of what I did. I just forced myself to do it anyway because you're supposed to, or I don't know. But yeah, I'm not even sure exactly why I'm supposed to, but letting people down or saying no or making them feel bad or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my wife is she has people pleasing to an nth degree, where she will put other people's happiness above her own, and that's what kind of I meant by boundaries. Yeah. Sorry, jumping back into kind of where we're at. So you there was a bit of a click there for you when you went to see the psychologist. How far was this into the kind of journey from kind of when you were in high school? You graduated and you were working?
So when I completely crashed, I think it was in March. So like 9 months after I graduated. So I was 19, or maybe I guess I had just turned 20 when it was like at its worst.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that first year it was when I was, and always say I was never homebound, but I was pretty much, no, sorry. I was not bedbound, but I was pretty much homebound in the sense that, I went from the bed to the couch. So I had like a year where I only really saw my parents and my brother, and then I actually also had a boyfriend at the time. And obviously didn't work. Well, not obviously. I guess some people do make it work, but we were teenagers, right? I couldn't do anything. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but that in itself, having like, I know a lot of people also struggling with that. Having a boyfriend when you can't do anything. I could see him for 2 hours at a time, and that was it. And I would feel like shit afterwards, And I knew he wasn't getting what he needed from the relationship. So again, all that guilt, and I should do more, and I should do this. And yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question?
No. I was just understanding where you were at when you'd seen the psychologist, and kind of like, then if you could take us through the next part of the story, how you start to make, get towards kind of where you're at now, I guess, in the progression you've made.
So, I guess at first I thought like, okay, I need to eat better. I jumped on the whole medical medium wagon, and were really restrictive and trying to force my body to get better almost. And that didn't really work for me. And just trying to limit my stressors, and that's always good, but it didn't really change much. I still had the same issues, and if I pushed myself, I still reacted exactly the same way. And pushing myself was really doing anything. So then about a year later, I had tickets to this musical that I had bought them like a long time ago. So before I got sick, and I really, really wanted to go. Like, I love dancing. I love this kind of thing. So it's really important to me. I think it was even with my then boyfriend. So like, it was really, really, really damn important to me. And then I saw this girl. Actually, she's been on here, Alexandra from Heal with Alex.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. She was posting about Fast EFT, and I had seen it before, but not really. I mean, not looked into it really. But now I had like a week to go, and I wanted to go to the musical, So I was ready to do anything. So I jumped in and did the free course that she linked to, and then I was tapping for 5 hours a day because I wanted to go to the musical. I literally like got bruises on my cheekbones because I was tapping so much. I would wake up the night and I would be tapping in my sleep. And again, obviously, it didn't work either because, I was still pushing and forcing and trying to, like not listening. I was trying to suppress my symptoms basically so that I could go. But what did happen was that it kickstarted my journey with brain retraining, with kind of the emotional side of healing, the mental side of healing. And I found a really amazing practitioner that I had Fast EFT sessions with. So I had sessions with her weekly for 4 months. Wow. And then bi-weekly and every third week and so on for at least a year, I think. So I had quite a lot of sessions. I still have once in a while have sessions with her. And I started having sessions with her, I think it was November. And at that point, I had managed to be able to walk 1.5 kilometers. But, if I just walk 100 meters more, I might crash. So I had to constantly be careful. And I was so stuck at that point. Like, for some reason, that was the end of my, the field I was walking down on. So maybe that's the reason, I'm not sure. But for some reason, like, it just couldn't get over that. And that's when I started working with her in November. And then I think it was have a post on my Instagram. I think it was February or March. I was walking to the beach, which was like the other direction where there were people, and it was almost twice as long. And I jumped from 1.5 to 3 kilometers, like in one go, because I was tapping on the way. I had just done a Joe Dispenza meditation like right before. So I was in like this amazing mindset, and I was like, I can do this. I have the tools. And I was like tapping on the way, it's all in my mind. It's just my belief. Managed to, and I did it, and I felt fine afterwards. Like I didn't crash or anything, but it like, was still difficult. It's not like I did it with ease and like feeling good, but I did it and it was okay. And then from that point on, it just went up. In the summer, I ran for the first time. That had been something I had been visualizing every single day. That was like my happy memory in Faster EFT. One of the things we use is like a happy memory that you go to feel really good. And for me, that was running. So every day, multiple times, I would go to myself running. And I did that summer. It wasn't yet at a point where I could do it regularly, but I could do it when I felt good, which was amazing. And yeah, so the thing is for me, and I hope this might also help other people to hear, is that it's not like this and I just healed using this tool. Like it really, really wasn't. It helped me and I saw improvements right from the beginning. But for me, it was really, really one step at a time. I see other people that almost heal completely after 3 months or something, or 6 months or something. And I kind of hope what some people might take away from this is that it's okay if it takes longer. If it takes 2 years, it's still working. It might just mean you have more shit to go through. It might just mean that your patterns are stronger than other people's. The overthinking kind of people, those people also with Fast EFT, they tend to take a bit longer because they can rebuild their patterns and their stuff quite quickly. And that's okay. But it just gives different kind of challenges. But the people that they don't think about this stuff, they have never gone to psychologists, they usually change like this. But then the overthinkers, the people that go over and over and over their own things, they change slower. Not always, but like as a rule. And, I was in that category. So it's taken me a long time. I worked a lot with my relationship patterns and my patterns around men, which it just always seems to come back to that for some reason. And I wasn't really prepared at that with from the beginning. But, as I mentioned in the beginning, I had beginning of this talk, I had a dad that was very stressed and irritated and sensitive. So he wasn't really present in my life. He lived in the same house, but he wasn't really present. And I always knew he loved me so much. And today we have an amazing relationship and a great bond, but he was just so stressed himself that he didn't really, like the way I internalized it was that he wasn't interested in me. So 1.5 years ago, I met this amazing man online when I was doing the Fast EFT courses. And like, oh my God, that period of my life, like I was so stressed. I was so anxious all the time. It just brought up everything because here was this amazing man that had all the qualities I liked, and he was doing this work as well and all of these things. So, I could literally remember after we talked one day, I was just in bed. I was just in bed. Like I was almost sick after it because it was so stressful for me, and I just doesn't like me, and I'm not good enough, and it's like the whole thing. So for me, it was a lot of work on my self-worth and loving myself in terms of kind of having been a bit on my own in a certain way in my childhood. Like I was like the strong one. I was the one that was always doing good, that, got the good grades, was destined. I wanted to become a psychologist at that point. So I was going to go to uni, and I was never pushed. Like my parents were so good with that. I was never pushed. I did that myself. But like now looking back, that's, because there weren't room for me to be me. Like I wasn't feeling that love and connection just from being myself. I always had to limit myself because that would get stressed and irritated and leave the room if the television was on, or if you spoke too loudly, or if you wanted to go to football, you had to ask mom, and she would be like, okay, because she was so stressed, and she always did everything for us. Like we were her priority, and she's such a loving person. But growing up, always getting that response whenever you wanted to do something, that was hard. That, I had to, I love my mom. So I found a way to not be a burden in a way where I was like, okay, so if I have a want or a need, I just need to figure it out myself because I need to take care of mom. So I really just worked a lot on those patterns, and well, my whole life has kind of changed now, done an 180. Like where before I was kind of going in the kind of like the regular direction of kind of I'm going to high school, then I'm going to go to uni, and I'm having the boyfriend, and I'm having the friends, and I'm getting the house, and I was doing all of that, but I didn't want to. I wasn't happy. I mean, from the outside, I was probably normal because I was so good at suppressing everything, but I was stressed all the time, like literally every single day for like 5 years. So I'm so happy that happened, like that I burned out, because it literally forced me to look inside and be like, okay, like I want to. When am I thriving? What do I need? What do I want? And now I'm engaged to this incredible man. I moved country because he lived in another country, and we wanted to be together. And I am working with something that I truly, truly, truly love, and like I'm so satisfied, really, and happy with where I'm at and the direction I'm going in. I still have issues. I still tend to get too stressed, and that's what I'm currently working on now that I'm, as I was saying, I was getting back in the world, right? So now I need to find a way. Okay, how do I have like exactly the life I want, being out there without stressing? But except from that, if I listen to myself, I don't I can't do pretty much anything. Like I was traveling to Sweden alone this summer. I have like a cousin there and a friend I was visiting. So it's kind of, I can do everything. I just have to be careful. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah, so many interesting things you've said there. Particularly, and the things that kind of resonate for me is kind of like the overthinking stuff and things taking a little bit longer. And I think some people have like connected with my story a little bit because how I'm seeing, I'm still getting there, and I sometimes feel like, oh God, have I regressed? And then, but I think I overthink things as well. And I think, when I try, because I have heard quite a lot of like overnight success stories, you're like, okay, well, why isn't it working for me? And I think one of the things that I used to think a lot, and there's still an element that I think it, but nowhere near as much now, such a small percentage of, there's something different about me that means that I won't recover. And then you feel that the fact that you smiled means that you thought, and everyone thinks it. And then I've said it on the podcast before, but I went to you mentioned Joe Dispenza. I went to a Joe Dispenza event, and he said, I was sitting there thinking, I'm not getting this. It's not working. Why? There's something wrong with me. And then he literally said at that moment, he was like, if you're sitting there thinking this isn't going to work for you, don't think you're so special that like it won't work for you. You're not that special. And it's the same thing with this, is like we all have this kind of weird, deep-seated belief that there's something weird that hasn't been uncovered about us that means that we won't recover. And yeah, I don't know whether it comes back to that also, like the perfectionism side of things, where we kind of have to do everything right or it won't work. And I think that's why I kind of struggle. I mean, with Faster EFT, when you were doing it, did you notice an immediate, not an immediate, oh wow, I'm healed, but an immediate, okay, so there's something here, or was it like, no, I'm just going to continue on with this, and
Mhm.
I'll see what happens.
Um, I think like right at the beginning, what guided me was very much my kind of intuition and gut feeling that I knew kind of there was something here. But I remember I think it was, yeah, I bought 10 sessions immediately, like a package.
Mm.
And at first, I could barely have the session. Like just talking for 2 hours was a lot. And I remember like at the third session, I was talking to my practitioner and I was like, I'm just not sure I can do this. Like, I'm so stressed every time. Like, I prepare all week for the fact that I need to have this talk. And she was like, yeah, sure. Like, but I, most people it's good for, but like, if that's really how you feel, you don't have to. I mean, she was smart. She knew what she was doing, right? She gave me an out and then I was okay with doing it. Uh, and at that point, I mean, I haven't seen much changes, but pretty soon after that, so maybe it probably took 4 or 5 sessions or something, I did start to notice things. So there were an immediate kind of, maybe not the first session, but pretty soon, like a few weeks or a month or something. And I started to see like small changes. So like my sensitivity to light would go down a bit. I could have I could watch a movie again, or I could read like a few pages in a children's book, or just like these small signs, things I hadn't been able to do before that I could do now. It's not like I was just happily, joyfully kind of feeling amazing doing them, but my tolerance just got a tiny bit bigger. And I continued, the whole journey for me has been holding on to that. Like, I'm getting better, so I'm on the right track.
Mm.
That's still how it is today, that it works what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to do to get better. And it's still a journey to like get to a point where I can just completely live my life without thinking about any of these things, without having any sort of crashes. But also, let's be honest, any person who does things who have these patterns would burn out. They would get stressed. Like, it's not, I don't no longer have the belief that there's something wrong with me, because there isn't. My body is healthy and it is having a healthy response to what I put it through.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I resonate hugely with what you said. Like, that is exactly what I thought. Like, the whole time, I also still have a tiny bit of that left. It's much better. But like, even sitting here, I'm like, oh, well, I'm not perfectly healed. And can I even do this? But it's everybody I also work with, they also say the same thing. And I'm like, like, I know what you're going to say. You're different. Like, you're special. Like, this is not going to work for you. And so many people who come to me and they're like, oh, but it sure it's going to work because, I just have these beliefs and I don't, is it normal to think that? I'm like, yeah, everybody thinks that. Like,
it's it's not normal if you don't think it.
yeah, exactly. And I think, and like, it's part of like these things, I'm going to put it, if you didn't have that belief, you wouldn't have a problem. Like, if you were thinking, oh yeah, it will work for me, well, then something would have worked for you like that. And you wouldn't be here right now. So that's part of it, that you're like, you have those beliefs and you're stuck in it. And that's part of unraveling this whole thing and starting to trust yourself again. And yeah, like it's part of the package when you're, I don't know exactly where it comes from. I think you're right. That is probably something to do with the perfectionism thing. But I think it could also kind of be a little bit of like that protection mechanism. Because if you don't have that, then I know for me, like, if I could just feel like this, I would have to go out there and do things I don't want to do. I would have to go out there and be stressed. So I think it's also like you let go of it when you're ready to let go of it, when you are at a point where there's no resistance to actually being healthy.
Yeah, but I think we're also raised in a generation, where if there's something wrong with you, let's find out what it is. And like, there's a root cause that's like, and it's a virus, it's a bacteria, so we were raised believing that. And that is quite like a big belief to undo, that it's not actually that. There might be that, there's probably some of that at play that's helping towards it. And I'm even with that, I'm still kind of, because I have a lot of that stuff as well. I'm like, well, okay, you do have to regulate your nervous system, but also it's not good for me to just like go and eat pizzas every night and, stay up, all night playing video games. Like I can't completely, just do whatever I want. I've got to kind of live in a bit of a balance. Something I wanted to just check that you mentioned. Oh no, there's something I wanted to actually write. I think what's important with your story, you're not necessarily where you want to be in future, but you're in a position where, and this is where I've got to as well, where you can enjoy your life and you're enjoying your life. I mean, I really get that sense from you that like, you've met your fiance as well. You've moved to a whole different country. You've started a business and you've talked about gratitude as well, that you have a lot of that, and yet you're still going through it. And I think that's what's important, in my opinion, for people listening to this, is that don't think that just by healing physically, all of your problems are going to be solved. You can be healed physically and feel mentally quite crap about things. So it's important to try to start living your life and enjoying things now. Would you say that there's been a shift in that respect as well?
Yeah, I think like that's when I like doing all the work I've done, right? That's what it's all about. You need to like it's the other way around. It doesn't work that way. Like you're sick because you're not living your life, not the other way. Like so if you start living your life now, then you will be healthy. And of course, that can be extremely frustrating and right, just like fuck you. Like if you say that to a person that's sick and can't do anything, like that's not possible. You can't do that. But that's not true. You can absolutely do that. Maybe living your life is I don't know, you're spending 5 minutes doing gratitude exercises every day, or you're hugging your boyfriend more, or you're, I don't know, whatever it is, but there's always small things. It doesn't have to be these big things. You can start like really, really small. Just do what makes you happy. Like, do what like lights you up. Start really listening to yourself and meeting your own needs, meeting your own like wants, and being really, really honest in your life. Like that's, you need to somehow find into the core of who you are and shred those layers. And there are so many ways of doing that. I just one way that resonated with me, and that was mainly Faster EFT. But there are a ton of other ways you can do it. Like there's so many great programs out there, and you've had so many different people on here healing, like with different modalities. There's meditation, like that's an easy one. If you're like, you don't know anything, well, just start meditating. Meditate every day. Get into that state of calmness and just build on top of it.
Do you think what you said earlier about walking, and then you had this kind of like this point at which you couldn't get beyond, and I like, it's like a window of tolerance almost, and you kind of you would go to that and then you come back and you go to that and come back, but then you went past it. And it's almost like the 4-minute mile story where no one could ever run, the 4-minute mile, and then someone did it, and then it was easy. Loads of people did it, and I feel like I've tried to like prove to myself over long periods of time and look back and kind of okay, I can do something a little bit better than what I used to. Therefore, I'm proving to myself that my body improves. It is capable of doing that. And when you did that day where you kind of just blew past your previous best of, I can't remember what you said, I think it was a kilometer or something, and you went and did 3 or something like that. And that in itself, would you think by proving to yourself there, that was like a huge breakthrough for you?
No. I don't think so, because I think if you're trying to prove to yourself that you're healthy, you're still coming from the pattern of I'm not healthy. So I think for me, it was never about proving it to myself. It was just about like, I want to be healthy and I need to do this. Like for me, there are very like distinctive day that I remember were well, I don't remember the date, but I remember the decision. My psychologist told me I was depressed. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, do I have that on me now as well? And I just realized like my life is so fucking bad now. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here. Well,
No, yeah, no, you go.
well, I was depressed. I was feeling like shit. Like my mental state and emotional state had gotten so bad that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. This is it. I'm over this. Done. And the thing is, I'm stubborn as hell. So at that point, I had zero beliefs that I could ever get healthy, but I fully knew that I was stubborn enough to do it. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to get healthy. And I have not wavered in that decision since then. But the thing is, it had to get so bad that I was ready to sacrifice everything. So I made that day, I made the decision, okay, I don't care anymore if it's a wedding, if it's a funeral, if it's like a new baby's born. I don't care. I am not doing it if it's not right for me. I'm not doing it. And I have said no to funerals, to weddings. I wasn't at my brother's wedding. Twice actually. He got married twice to the same woman, but in two different countries. And I wasn't at either of them. And like, that's the thing. You're like, so I'm going to put it. Of course, you're not seeking to be uncomfortable, but you just like, I think that's why you have to you have to be in so much pain sometimes that you're ready to sacrifice your old way of being, your old patterns, if that's what it takes to get better. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish that it were different, that it could just be feeling a little bit bad and then, okay, I'm ready, and then fix it or something like that. But the truth is that's just usually not how it works. You have to get really bad. So I had that stubbornness. I had that, okay, I'm going to do this. So it was never really about proving it to myself. I mean, I doubted that I was moving forward so many times. It's insane. That's just daily life almost. So for sure I had that part and I was looking for proof, yes. But doing these things would never to prove anything because that would have freaked me out and then I couldn't do it. That's if I tried to push myself to do anything, I can't. That's when my body says no. So for me, it was never about that. But I think it is for a lot of people. But that's also the problem, right? If you're coming from that place, that's not a place of, okay, let's be loving and kind to myself and give myself what I need and, honor myself. And if I need a day of rest, that's okay. And if I want to go running, that's also okay. It's very different from, okay, I need to prove that I can, in fact, take a run and I need to run, longer than last time because I'm getting better. That's very kind of restrictive and forceful in the direction of health, where for me, that's what hasn't been working. What works is when I let go and I accept, okay, I don't know if I can do this. And then I usually always can. But if I try to force myself, then I can't.
Yeah. Apologies if it was coming across as proving something. It definitely wasn't that. It was more having a barometer of kind of how far you've come.
Right.
Because, and because I was doing so very little each day, it was difficult for me to see that I could do things. Just as an example, the boxing thing as an example, I wouldn't have even tried that a year and a half ago. And I was like, I'll just try it. And I did it. And I was like, wow, my hands don't really hurt afterwards. I can do this again. And but also I totally get what you mean. I've also had things where I've just in the past, okay, well, people are going to go and play football, so I'm going to try. And then it messes me up for a long time. You mentioned gratitude, what in the ways in which your life is better now as a result of kind of what you've been doing. I think you've mentioned a few of them, but just kind of summarizing.
So, well, of course, the most important one is my health.
Mm.
I am no longer sick all the time. Haven't been for a few years now. Something like like just the regular influence and so on. Like I don't really have that pattern anymore. Um, I don't really crash. Like I can get, if I push myself, I do kind of have like a reaction, but it's like half a day or an hour, or, it's not like I crash and then I have to get over this hard period of time where I can't do anything again. That doesn't really happen. If I push myself, yes, there's a reaction, but I'm okay. Like then I just stop pushing myself and then I'm fine. So that's changed my my level of like tolerance for what I can do is gigantic compared to what it was back then. I can go travel as long as I feel safe in it. Like when I went to Sweden by myself, I can spend, like when I was in Sweden, I lived with my cousin. I did sleep in my kind of own space, but I lived with her, so I was around people 24/7, which is like social interaction, which is a huge trigger to me, right? So I can be around people that I love and that I like being around pretty much for like however long I want. Like you can kind of see my fiance in the background. I'm living with him. When he first came and visited me, it was hard for me to even go on a date with him. And, we're living together. We're sleeping in the same bed. I'm sleeping just fine. We are having 3 animals, 2 dogs and a cat. And, I'm happy with that. It does stress me sometimes that I have to work them, but I'm working on that one. I'm engaged. I'm thinking about, future family life, which is something that would have been insane back then. Like thinking about like kids and stuff like this. Like, so yeah, like this is my whole life. It really is hard to describe, but the way I approached it was that I healed my childhood patterns. So it's not just one, like I did it to better my health, but what happened was I bettered my whole life. I'm satisfied with the work I'm doing. I have a fiance that wants to provide for me. So, and he is fully on board with the fact that I need to do what I need to do to get healthy. So I love our relationship. I love the role I have. I can take care of the home. Like I've built entirely the life that I want, and I have the freedom and the time to just get better in my own tempo. I can, I go to dance classes. I make my own toothpaste. I go collect herbs. I can do all the things I love to do, which is amazing. And then I also do love to work on myself and clear out those patterns. Like I like doing it and I like the results I see. So I still do that. I would say almost on a daily basis. Not always that much. Sometimes it's just 3 minutes or something, and sometimes it's an hour. So yeah, I think that's also the thing with this, that the way I see it is almost like an investment. You invested in your life when you do fast EFT or any other kind of brain retraining on these things. It's not just like, here's a pill and you get better, or here's a long treatment and you get better. It's also an investment.
Yeah.
For that like it will pay off for the rest of your life, that you feel secure in your relationship. It will pay off for the rest of your life, that you have a mindset that facilitates like health. It will pay off for the rest of your life, that you're not overthinking, that you're not a people pleaser. Like all these things, it's 20 years down the road, you're gonna, like, you can't even compare the two. Like it's 2 different people, right? At least that's how it is for me, like before the brain retraining and all this work. And then after, like I'm not the same person.
Yeah, definitely. And well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And it really was amazing. And going through that, particularly at the point you're at now, where kind of you're still essentially kind of in it, but like, being able to like look back and be just so grateful for where you're at the moment. If people want to reach out to you at all and ask any questions, are they okay to do that? What's the best way of them doing that?
Yeah, of course. I have an Instagram page for where I do share uh some things, sometimes a lot, sometimes not a lot, but they can always just send me a message there.
Okay, and that's Heal with Rebecca, is that right?
Yeah, I feel it's Rebecca _
Underscore. Okay, cool, awesome. And thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, and super excited to get this one out, and really appreciate your time.